What if being single after 65 isn't something to fix, but something to honor? For years, society has whispered, or sometimes shouted, that growing older alone is a problem to be solved. That if you're not coupled up, something must be missing. But here's a truth not enough people say out loud. Peace of mind, emotional safety, and a sense of self are just as important as companionship. And for many older adults, those things are easier to find when you're on your own. Maybe you've felt it, the tug of wanting connection, but also the calm that comes with quiet mornings, decisions made on your terms, and the deep exhale of not having to explain your needs to someone else. That's not loneliness. That might be healing. That might be freedom. This video isn't about giving up on love or pushing people away. It's about offering perspective, one that respects your life experience, your intuition, and your right to choose what truly supports your well-being. Sometimes, staying single isn't a sign of loss. It's a sign of strength. So stay with us until the end, because reason number 7 might be the one that finally gives you permission to stop explaining yourself and start standing taller in your own truth. Let's take a gentle, honest look at why being single later in life might not be a gap in your story, but a turning point towards something more whole. 1. Emotional stress from conflict. One of the quiet truths that begins to surface with age is how deeply emotional tension can affect your health. Relationships, no matter how loving or well-intentioned, come with their share of stress. And while that might have felt manageable in your 30s or 40s, things change as you get older. Your nervous system doesn't rebound as quickly. Sleep becomes more fragile. Even a single difficult conversation can linger in your chest, like a weight you can't quite put down. You might not even realize it's happening. A sigh that won't release. A knot in your stomach that shows up after a disagreement. A sense of walking on eggshells just to keep things calm. Conflict doesn't always have to be dramatic to be damaging. In fact, it's often the small, daily tensions, the miscommunications, the emotional silences, the feeling of not being heard, that slowly wear down your sense of peace. And here's where staying single becomes less about isolation and more about preservation. Choosing solitude doesn't mean you're closing yourself off from love or connection. It can mean you're finally listening to your body's quiet call for calm. You're creating space where you can breathe fully, sleep deeply, and feel at ease in your own company. Many older adults carry emotional wounds from earlier relationships, past trauma, that when stirred, can reopen pain that was never fully healed. Entering or maintaining a partnership at this stage, especially one filled with friction, can unknowingly reawaken those wounds. But stepping back, setting boundaries, and choosing a life of emotional steadiness can actually be an act of profound self-care. Peace is not a luxury, it's a need, especially now. So if you've been told that being single means something is missing, pause and ask yourself, what if nothing is missing? What if you've simply chosen a path where your nervous system can rest, your heart can feel safe, and your home remains a haven? Staying single after 65 doesn't mean you've given up on love. It might mean you've finally chosen to love yourself enough to guard your peace. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom. 2. Financial complications. After talking about the emotional weight of conflict, it's only natural to look at another area where relationships can quietly affect your well-being, your finances. Because by the time you're in your 60s or 70s, money isn't just about spending or saving. It's about security, about protecting what you've worked for, about ensuring that your future, your healthcare, your housing, your peace of mind, is covered without confusion or risk. Entering a new relationship at this stage of life often means mixing not just emotions, but bank accounts, credit histories, and personal obligations. What might begin as a loving partnership can quickly become complicated when financial habits clash. You may find yourself suddenly responsible for someone else's debts, negotiating how to split bills, or rethinking your plans for retirement, plans you spent decades building. It goes deeper, too. Think about Social Security benefits, Medicare decisions, life insurance policies, wills and inheritance. A new relationship can unexpectedly impact all of these things. And if either partner has children from previous relationships, the legal and emotional terrain can become even more tangled. That's why, for many older adults, staying single isn't just a personal decision. It's a smart financial one. It means staying in full control of your own money. You don't have to justify a new hobby, explain every withdrawal, or get caught in uncomfortable discussions about what belongs to whom. You can support your loved ones the way you choose. You can spend or save with clarity. And you can move through life without the stress of financial uncertainty caused by someone else's situation. This isn't about being selfish. It's about being secure. At this stage, financial freedom isn't just a luxury. It's a lifeline. So, if this message is striking a chord, and if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you'll always be the first to know when a new senior-focused guide comes out. You deserve guidance that respects where you are in life and where you want to go. Now, let's move on. 3. Loss of routine and personal space. As we age, our routines become more than just habits. They become lifelines. They offer structure, safety, and a deep sense of peace. Whether it's the way you make your morning coffee, the time you take your walk, or how you like your books arranged, these aren't just preferences. They're a reflection of your identity, your independence, and the stability you've worked hard to build. But when a new partner enters the picture, even with the best of intentions, their presence can start to shift those rhythms. It doesn't always happen all at once. It can be subtle. A changed bedtime, different shows on the TV, new expectations about how and when to eat dinner. And before you know it, the quiet comfort of your home begins to feel unfamiliar. Take Marion, a 72-year-old retired librarian from Flagstaff, Arizona. She had crafted a life she loved. Early mornings sipping tea, filling in crossword puzzles at her kitchen table, taking daily walks through the neighborhood she'd lived in for over 30 years. Evenings were reserved for classic films and the occasional call with her granddaughter. It wasn't flashy, but it was hers. Then came Richard. They met at a local community center. He was kind, warm, and full of stories. But over time, his habits began to crowd out hers. He slept late, kept the television on from breakfast to bedtime, and insisted on reorganizing her carefully arranged pantry. "It felt like I was being moved out of my own life," Marion said. What started as companionship became a quiet invasion of the life she'd spent decades building. In the end, Marion made a choice, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. She chose her peace. Autonomy isn't just about privacy. It's about living each day on your own terms, honoring what makes you feel grounded, and refusing to trade your peace for someone else's comfort. For many older adults, that's not a luxury. It's a necessity, and choosing to protect it is not selfish. It's wise. 4. Increased caregiving burden. Relationships later in life are often sought for companionship, laughter, and mutual support. But sometimes, what begins as an equal partnership can shift dramatically, and without much warning. One day, you're going out to lunch together, and the next, you're coordinating doctor's appointments, managing medications, and helping someone in and out of bed. It's not that you mind helping. It's that the weight of caregiving can arrive faster than expected and heavier than imagined. The truth is, love doesn't always protect us from the exhaustion of caregiving. In fact, it can deepen the toll. You care so much, you give until your own well-being is put on hold. And when you're already dealing with your own health changes, reduced mobility, or even just the normal fatigue that comes with age, that load becomes even more difficult to carry. Many older adults find themselves in this position without realizing how it happened. The errands increase, the responsibilities pile up. Slowly, the companionship they longed for is overshadowed by caregiving duties they never prepared for. And while helping a loved one is an act of deep compassion, it can also lead to burnout, isolation, and even resentment, especially when there's no room left for your own needs. Choosing to stay single, for some, is not about avoiding responsibility. It's about honoring personal limits. It's about preserving your emotional and physical energy for the people, passions, and projects that bring you joy, not drain it. You've spent your life caring for others. At some point, it's okay to center your own care. You're not selfish for setting boundaries. You're wise for recognizing them. And if no one has told you this lately, you deserve peace, rest, and relationships that lift you up, not wear you down. 5. Family tensions and inheritance issues. Sometimes, the weight doesn't come from the relationship itself, but from the ripples it creates around you. After years of raising children, building traditions, and navigating the ups and downs of family life, most seniors deeply value peace and harmony within their circle. That's why it can be so disheartening when a late-in-life relationship creates unexpected friction. It's not just about finding love again. It's about how others respond to that love. And often, it's your adult children who are most affected. They may not say it out loud, but underneath their polite smiles can lie real concern. Some fear being replaced emotionally. Others quietly worry about changes to inheritance, to property, or to the financial future they once assumed was secure. Even small gestures, like sharing a vacation with a partner or adjusting your will, can unintentionally spark deep resentment. Suddenly, a new relationship becomes a wedge, creating tension where there once was trust. For many older adults, this reality brings a painful dilemma. Do you pursue personal happiness, even if it causes strain within your family? Or do you protect the connections you've built over a lifetime, choosing stability over companionship? Take Evelyn, a 75-year-old widow from South Carolina. After losing her husband, she found comfort in the company of a man she met through her church. But once her children discovered they were spending holidays together and discussing finances, the tone shifted. Conversations grew strained. Accusations were hinted at, even if never spoken aloud. Evelyn eventually stepped back, not because the relationship didn't matter, but because the family she had nurtured for decades mattered even more. "I realized I didn't want to spend my golden years mending fences," she said. Staying single doesn't mean you're missing out. For many, it's an act of protection, of emotional stewardship. It's about preserving the legacy of connection you've spent years building with your children, your grandchildren, and your community. Your peace is precious. And sometimes, solitude is not loneliness. It's clarity. It's the calm after a lifetime of caring for others. And it's okay to choose that clarity, even when it surprises others. Because at this stage of life, protecting your heart doesn't always mean letting someone in. It can also mean standing gently on your own. 6. Reduced independence and freedom. One of the most liberating parts of growing older is finally being able to call your own shots. You've spent decades waking up to alarm clocks, cooking meals for a full household, and planning your days around work schedules, school pickups, and family obligations. But now is your time. You've earned every moment of peace, every spontaneous afternoon nap, every last-minute road trip, and every quiet cup of coffee enjoyed without interruption. And yet, inviting someone new into your life, no matter how kind or well-meaning, can quietly chip away at that hard-won freedom. You start adjusting to their sleep schedule, coordinating meals and appointments, and reconsidering travel plans that once were as simple as packing a bag. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow shift, a quiet exchange of independence for companionship. And while some are more than happy to share that space, others realize they miss the feeling of being completely in charge of their own rhythm. Choosing to remain single doesn't mean turning your back on connection. It means honoring the life you've built. It means keeping your autonomy fully intact and embracing the freedom you've worked so hard to achieve. Because at this chapter in life, independence isn't just a lifestyle. It's a form of self-respect. It's knowing what brings you joy and having the space to follow it without needing to explain or adjust. 7. Pressure to settle for the wrong reasons. By the time we reach our late 60s or 70s, we've seen enough of life to know that not every smile hides good intentions, and not every relationship brings the peace we crave. And yet, the fear of being alone can be powerful. It can whisper doubts into quiet evenings, nudge us toward relationships that don't feel quite right, and convince us to say yes when everything inside us is urging wait. That fear can take many forms. Maybe it's the worry that others will see you as lonely or unlovable. Maybe it's the pressure from well-meaning family members who say things like, "You deserve someone," or "Don't grow old alone." Or maybe it's simply the ticking of time, telling you that the window for connection is closing. But here's the truth. Choosing to stay single isn't a sign of giving up. It's often a sign of profound clarity. Gloria, a 68-year-old retired nurse from Savannah, Georgia, knows that truth intimately. After the loss of her husband, friends from church and even her children encouraged her to get back out there. Eventually, she began dating a gentleman from her congregation. He was respectful, gentle, and kind. But Gloria felt no spark, no pull toward deeper connection. "Everyone kept saying how lucky I was," she said. "But I never felt lucky. I felt invisible, like I was going through the motions to make other people feel better." She ended the relationship and made a different kind of commitment to herself. She rekindled her love of painting, started volunteering at a local hospice, and rediscovered what truly made her feel alive. "Being alone isn't the same as being lonely," she shared. "Sometimes, it's how you finally hear yourself again." At this age, settling out of fear is the quickest way to emotional emptiness. Your peace, your presence, your self-respect, they're worth more than social approval or the illusion of companionship. Saying no to something that doesn't fit isn't a loss. It's a powerful act of self-trust. So if you've ever felt that pressure, know this: you are not behind, broken, or alone. You're just brave enough to wait for what's right, or choose a life that's already whole without it. After hearing these 7 heartfelt truths, one thing becomes clear. Staying single after 65 isn't something to explain away or feel uncertain about. It can be a powerful, intentional choice, a decision rooted not in fear or resignation, but in strength, wisdom, and self-respect. Whether one reason touched your heart or every single one spoke to your soul, know this: choosing solitude in your later years is not a sign of giving up on love. It's a sign that you've finally chosen to love yourself, fully, deeply, and without apology. There's something sacred about waking up in a home that reflects your rhythm, in a life that answers only to your heart. There's power in making your own schedule, preserving your energy for people and passions that nourish you, and protecting the bonds you've built with your children, grandchildren, and community. You've earned that peace. You've lived long enough to know that companionship isn't always connection. And sometimes, the deepest contentment comes not from being with someone, but from simply being with yourself. So if you're walking this chapter solo, let it be a walk of pride, not pity. Embrace the quiet, celebrate the clarity, and remember, peace doesn't arrive on someone else's arm. It shows up when you live each day on your own terms, calm, clear, and confident in who you are. If this video brought you comfort or clarity, please like it, share it with someone who might need to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe. This space is for you, for truth, for care, and for real connection with others walking a similar path. You're not alone here. You're supported, respected, and seen.